welcome back to the Unbiased Opinion, where everyone's opinion is biased except ours. I'm Colin.
I'm Craig.
Yep.
And I'm Striker.
And we're continuing our seemingly never-ending reviews of the X-Men movies. And this time, we're all the way up to X-Men Apocalypse. So discounting the Wolverine movies, this nightmare is almost over. Now, let's just jump right into it. X-Men Apocalypse came out in 2016, and this is the second X-Men movie I've seen theatrically. And I remember it's not like unwatchable, but it is shockingly terrible, this movie.
I just remember being a huge disappointment. Right after Days of Future Past, considered usually top two X-Men movie, and this is the follow-up to it. And it's just like I remember not being. I remember we were watching it. It wasn't as bad as I remembered, but it's still just
Yeah,
not good.
when I watched it in the theaters, I do remember hating it more than this time around. This time around, I was more of like, it's not good, but
Yeah, because I was actually kind of looking forward to this when it came out all those years ago. I was like,
because
wow, a follow-up to Days of Future Past, they'd probably be even better.
they had the same team that worked on Days of Future Past, even that guy. They had everybody coming back, and then we just get this.
Say his name.
No, saying his name gives him power. They have the same crew, and then it just turns into this. And there's so many things I do not like about this movie, and I'm sure some of the points we all agree on. But Daniel, what did you think of X-Men Apocalypse?
It was very disappointing, but I could sit through and watch it. Like you guys were saying, it's not as bad as I remember. It was just blech. If it wasn't set up to be what it was supposed, if it wasn't like, I guess for the fact that it was meant to, be their Thanos, like it probably wouldn't be as disappointing. But it's not horrible. It's just I'm not mad, just disappointed.
Thanks,
Well,
Dad.
let's do something that I'm sure we all agree on. Apocalypse is terrible in this movie. Like, I can understand maybe they wanted to go the practical route of Apocalypse having a guy in a costume, but the fact is it's just like Apocalypse is this tiny little guy in the movie, and in the comics, he's like this guy that is the size of the Hulk. He is this huge, lumbering, blue Egyptian guy who has immense powers.
I could
He's supposed
live
to be
with the change.
intimidating.
I could live with the change if he just maybe spoke better, had better dialogue, and was more convincing. Like, it's okay, say he doesn't look like the Hulk or Thanos, but if he's, got that silver tongue, that could at least make up for it. Why is he able to get so many people to follow him?
Well, I'm gonna say he doesn't have to be a CGI guy, but they could get like some 6'10", 6'8"
Yeah,
guy
he
and put
he
him in
just needs to
makeup.
look. He needs to look menacing and intimidating. Like this guy is going around proclaiming himself as God. He should probably look a little more intimidating.
I was just saying that if he was at least a better character, maybe you could live with the fact he wasn't as physically intimidating.
Yeah, that's a fair point. I think also too, like they made him just look like this. Like the makeup, I don't know if it was intentional or like it seemed like the makeup was like saggy. Like it was supposed. I don't know if they were supposed to make him look like this old dude, but he just I don't know.
You
Like the
talking
way
about in
in
the
his
beginning
face,
or throughout the movie?
yeah, just throughout the movie. I guess their part was to go for like this ancient look, but it just looked like this like old dude.
Well,
I mean, didn't he say he's thousands of years old or
yeah, in the
something?
X-Men lore, isn't he the first mutant?
Yeah,
Like
but
pulling from the
yeah, but
comics.
yes, but in the comics he doesn't look like he's like he looked like an old man, like a worn down old man in the face.
Yeah, in the comics he looks like a brute.
Well, also, they didn't explain anything about the suit, too. I mean, I know in the comics it's, I think, celestial technology or something, but
Is it?
I think so. Because I know they obviously referenced it, how he was able to transfer his consciousness and stuff, like activating the pyramid. But
Interesting.
I didn't touch
Yeah,
upon
they
all
didn't
that
touch
at
upon that
all.
in the movie at all. The other thing that I absolutely despise this movie was everybody looking up to Mystique. Now, I thought this was incredibly stupid
Oh,
8 years ago when we saw it in the theaters, and it makes no sense because she almost ruined everything. And the 2023 original timeline future was because of her. What kind of hero is she?
Well, they don't know about that.
Well, it's just that. How could you say she's a hero? When it took Charles to convince her she was going to kill Eric on national TV.
You mean what's his name? Okay, we just saw this and I'm forgetting his name.
Magneto?
No, not Magneto. She shot Magneto, but she didn't kill him. Trask.
Oh yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah, she had the gun pointing at Trask too. If anything, Charles should be, world renowned for de-escalating everything.
Well, again, this is what the audience knows, not the
I know,
characters.
but still, like having Mystique be this kind of hero to everybody is really kind of lame.
What's her name? Jennifer Lawrence supposed to be a good actress. I'm still not convinced.
Well, again, I think it's the material she's given, and I don't think in this one
No, she's just
particular.
playing herself.
Well, no, I'm just saying, doesn't she have an Academy Award? I'm sure she's good with the right material, but I don't think she even cares in these X-Men movies. If I'm being honest, I think she's checked out.
Well, because in at first class, she was kind of naive, not fully Mystique yet. Days of Future Past, she was almost there to Mystique. Not still kind of playing herself, but at least closer to how Mystique was. Now I don't feel like she's playing a character at all. I feel like she's playing herself.
Probably because she's checked out.
Well, I think she's too good for the makeup.
I mean, that too. By each movie, she's having less and less makeup on.
Or like in the fourth one, they'd only cover her face.
Well, in this one, at the end, they only cover her face.
That's true too.
So, what did you
I was
guys?
gonna
Oh yeah, there you go.
I was gonna say, speaking of, I didn't realize until watching it this time, but I felt like Magneto was completely useless in this movie. Like he was just wasted. Like if they had just cut him out, nothing would have changed in this movie.
Yeah, he's kind of just there, and then they have that kind of silly, not subplot, but Magneto has a family in Poland, and then he gets ratted on, and then they accidentally shoot his wife and kid with a bow and arrow. The police.
Whoa, not just that was gonna bring that up. Like that just kills the daughter. It goes through the daughter and the wife.
Yeah, talk about a stroke of bad luck.
And then look at the guy even tried to have the arrow pulled all the way back. He kind of like looked away and then let it go. I mean, it wouldn't. I mean, come on, you have to a little bit of strength. Those like small bow and arrows. Do you have any idea how hard it is to shoot somebody?
Also, wouldn't there have been metal on the arrow to
Well,
pierce?
they probably knew about Magneto. Maybe it's like really sharp plastic or something.
Still, it's just
To puncture to like, completely go through the daughter.
Listen, man,
and
this
the
is
wife.
this is a comic book movie. There's a small blue guy running around
But
who speaks terribly.
I think it would have just
wait,
been
which
better.
one?
I think it would have just been better for Magneto if you just either obviously they probably can't they can't cut him out because he's for marquee value, but I think you should have just had Magneto in exile. Like
That's what
maybe
I was
not
thinking
like
too.
like you have him in exile, and then to Craig's point, you have Apocalypse. Like it's a scene where you see his conniving ways, how he could convince someone to follow him. Like he finds him, he sways him.
I'm be honest. I don't think
Maybe-
it takes too much to persuade Magneto.
Hey, you want to go kill some humans? Okay.
Well, I mean, maybe if you wanted to, if you wanted to be like, all right, he was kind of on the fence, or if you just want he's in exile, whatever. But maybe they could have a cool little battle. Apocalypse shows him his power, and then also, talks him into following him. I think that's a better way than, essentially just having a family there just to kill off immediately for motivation when he doesn't need much motivation, like Craig, like you were saying, to try to want to wipe out humanity.
Yeah, he's like an animal, just wants
And
to
then-
kill humans.
And then like his only development is just he unlocks more of his power. He just revisits Auschwitz, dives more into his pain, and then now can touch the metals in the core. And then at the end, he's just there. He's just in a sphere essentially, and
Magnetic
ultimately,
field he's in.
yeah, just to then help them at the end, and then he goes off again.
Yeah, he gets away scot-free. Their plan was to destroy every single building on the planet, and he gets away scot-free.
Not just every building. They wanted to essentially they wanted to terraform the Earth.
Well, yeah, but the start was to destroy every single planet,
Well,
killing out. I forgot. I think there was some number how many people would die, but it was just a very large number of people would have died. And it's like, well, Magneto,
Well,
you.
can we also
Magneto,
talk about
you
something?
rascal.
I want to go back to Apocalypse because another thing about him I didn't like was rewatching the scene. It was so stupid. The missile scene because he's like, "Oh, they can't touch God." It's like if you want to redo the entire Earth, why wouldn't you just take all the arsenal of missiles and just nuke everyone? Just start clean there. It seems like you could survive, you and your four horsemen.
Well, I think the point was the human weapon still could commit his plan. I think he could just do it on his own.
I think it would have just been better if he was like, "Oh, you want to have faith in your weapons? Here you go. Drop them on them." Maybe add a little more stakes to it instead of like, "Oh, I'm going to pick these four useless people to be my protectors." That was another thing that bothered me was his choice of the horsemen was so stupid. Psylocke, like I think they made a big deal. Like he has these four protectors, these four powerful beings to protect him and be with him, and he picked Psylocke, someone who can just grow a really long sword. An angel who just has metal wings now. Like Storm,
Who are his four Apocalypse in the comics?
I don't know. I know it changes. Well, the point is he chose incredibly poorly.
like, wouldn't he have gone for someone like Jean? You know?
Jean. I mean, Magneto makes sense.
Well, going after Professor X at the end, that's fine. Magneto makes sense. Storm makes sense in the sense, where she can control the elements, but they just don't show that really. They just show her shooting lightning. But it's like Psylocke and
Angel.
Angel are just like.
Or is it Angle?
Were you waiting to say that, Craig?
Yes.
So this is when it gets really messy with the continuity because as we talked about in X-Men 3 at the Last Stand, that takes place in 1986 in the beginning with a very young Jean Grey, almost, I want to say adolescent, but definitely not nearly as old as Jean Grey is in 1983 in this movie.
I think at this point they gave up on the timeline.
And also, Alex Summers hasn't aged 20 years. Remember,
Same with Angel.
was he in?
He was in X-Men Last Stand. He was about 20.
I don't think those count anymore.
Well, it's just another character that didn't age for 20 years.
Well, he was a kid in the 90s, and now he's an adult in 83. And because I think it said in X-Men 3 in 1996 is when that kid who was Angel tried cutting off his wings.
Yeah.
So they clearly don't care, but it's just, it kind of matters on a surface level, the continuity stuff. And then when people aren't aging in 20 years. I think they even had a line about seeing Moira. He's like, wow, she hasn't aged in 20 years.
Well, they were all saying that to each other, like, "Wow, you look good. It's been a while. How long? I don't know."
Yeah, Magneto would be like 50 something in this movie.
Well, yeah, they'd all be approaching. At least the first class crew would be approaching their 50s, if not over
Like
50.
the only one that would get a pass is Mystique because she can always alter her appearance. Like you can get away with that, but like everyone else is just there's no excuse. And same with Nightcrawler because he's blue, but he's the only one that I guess fits in terms of age potentially.
I mean, I guess Jean Grey and Cyclops kind of match their age in the first movie. Because I'm assuming in the first X-Men movie from 2000, they're all like in their 30s. I'm going to assume. And they said that Scott is 17. So that says he'd be born in 1966. Yeah, about 30 something. Whatever, sure. I think it's a little older than what James Marsden was. Doesn't matter. It's kind of close to their age. I think I would have put this movie in like, I don't know, like 85, 86.
I mean, really, there's no reason why they couldn't move it up.
Yeah, especially when we'll get to the next one next week. But going exactly decade by decade, I don't know how I feel about it.
Oh yeah, it was a terrible decision in hindsight.
Same with Brandon Stryker back. He hasn't aged as well.
Well, and Quicksilver too.
Well, also imagine that poor guy who's Stryker right now, in just like 20 years, he's gonna turn from that guy, that Chad, to Brian Cox.
He's gonna shrink.
From Chad to Cox.
God, how many movies has Stryker been in now? He's been in X2, X-Men Origins. Was he in First Class?
He's probably
mentioned.
He was
He's
mentioned
probably-
in First Class.
Yeah, that's right.
He's probably second only to Wolverine.
Yeah, he's in these movies more than Cyclops is.
I mean, I think off the top of my head, The count to be Wolverine number one, Professor X number two, then probably Stryker.
I'm like, yeah, Striker's
Or
Storm.
maybe Magneto number two and three, then Stryker. But still, you would think the more important characters would be higher up on that list, not okay,
Not
you got Wolverine,
Striker.
Professor X, Magneto, then William Stryker.
And also, I hated the Wolverine cameo. Was so pointless.
Oh, and then of course they have to follow it up with the
I hope I
I
never
hope we
see
never
that
see
guy
that guy
again.
again.
I roll.
It was terrible. Why would you think that'd be okay to say? I don't understand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why didn't Cyclops just blast him out the door?
Wolverine could have, like also too, I mean, they're making it weird now. He knew Jean Grey when she was a teenager. It's like
Yeah, the little.
Yeah, that was
Yeah, I did think about that. I'm like, oof. She's
Maybe a
17. We know she's 17. She's not of age.
I think that might have been a little Brian Singer input.
called foreshadowing.
What was it?
I believe the correct term,
Say-
Craig, is grooming.
Oh no. That's what offensive coordinators do to their
I
quarterbacks.
thought the new cast was okay. They weren't, I don't like how Nightcrawler looks. He looks like an emo kid
Yeah.
with his weird hair. I guess he looked okay on design, but it's just the hair really that just.
If they just gave him his classic spiked hair, he would have been fine. I get he's a teenager now, he's trying to fit in, but
Yeah, like I thought Jean Grey was fine. I thought obviously my boy Cyclops, he was fine.
I just think they were trying to do too much in this movie.
Oh yeah, this movie is overstuffed. That's probably its biggest issue is that they're trying to do way, way, way too much.
I also thought the Quicksilver showing up at the mansion, not that I didn't
How did he
mind
know
the
to go
scene.
to where the basement was? How did he know to do that?
I don't know. I mean, maybe
Well,
he was just running around everywhere.
I was just gonna say the scene is poorly timed because it was like the heart of the movie, they're at their all-time low, they just got Cerebro got destroyed and now Apocalypse just got
Freak Havoc.
Xavier. Yeah, well that line too, that was cringy, but at the low point they just got Charles, now they're about to reshape the world, and then it cuts to now this comedic break of him saving everyone. I just thought it was poorly timed.
Well,
I think it was
there
just
that.
it was too much.
I agree with you saying, it's this fun scene, but then immediately cuts to, where's my brother Alex? Oh, he's dead.
He
Yeah,
was the
whatever.
closest to the explosion.
Yeah, it was just such a weird change of tone because you have Charles just got taken and then Alex dies.
And then you get looks over goofing off. Which, I mean, in a vacuum, I like the scene. It's just, I know what you're saying. It's cut
Yeah.
between two not
Yeah.
great points.
Because I did like when he goes into the one room to save the people, and you see him take the dart and aim it to hit a bullseye in the dartboard real quick.
Yeah, you just screw around.
But what's so weird is that he's having fun while the whole mansion's blowing up. He's moonwalking. Looks like he's having the time of his life as this whole mansion just blew up from havoc, wreaking too much havoc.
I was just, the one scene I was just thinking of when he goes up to that couple on the balcony and the guy's going in for his
Oh,
kiss.
he has his tongue out.
Imagine being that kid. You're finally gonna get your first kiss, and the mansion just blows up on you.
Wasn't meant to be.
I just thought
Oh.
the scene was too much because they're trying to top Days of Future Past.
Oh, yeah, I mean, I'm
That-
pretty sure they said they were trying to.
Yeah, I just thought it's a little much, to quote George Lucas.
They may have gone too far in a few places.
What were you
But
gonna say, Craig?
I was
Yes.
gonna say, now, this probably didn't bother you guys, and I'm probably one of the handful of people that this did bother. It's a very small thing.
Oh no, you gonna spurg out again on us?
No, it's so when Quicksilver is running out the mansion, he jumps out the window and he still falls super fast.
Yes.
He can't do that. You can't really fall faster with gravity. I mean, assuming he just jumps out, right?
It's a movie.
I know it's a movie, but people with super speed, they always make them fall really fast, but they really shouldn't be able to do.
Well, what's weird is that
That's your physics lesson for the day.
he was on a table and then he's falling faster than everyone else that he threw out the mansion.
That too. That's also probably why it was more noticeable. Just because you have super speed doesn't mean you can fall super fast.
Maybe their logic is that he's running so fast that he lands fast. I don't know.
Chemistry 101.
What happens when you run at a supersonic speed?
The if we're also on cringy lines too, with they when they went to
Oh, the
the
mall.
mall,
Yeah.
and they made the line, the third one's always the worst. It's like, oh god.
Well, the thing is, like, what are you trying to say? Like, this is the third movie of the reboots. Like, did you know that you made a piece of garbage and you just went with it?
Oh well, I think what most people come to the consensus of is they were trying to take a shot at X3, not realizing this is the third movie in a trilogy.
X3 is better than this. I don't care what anybody says. X3 is better than this. I'm sure you guys would agree.
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
because
Yeah. Well, I was to say Magneto's is a better villain than whatever they attempted at Apocalypse with this.
Yeah, I'm just
well, at
not
least X3. I mean, like I said, we I like the not to go too much, but I like the Cure storyline. This is just it's constantly cutting to like 20 different storylines with like new character introduced every
Well,
scene.
also, they're very poorly introducing the Dark Phoenix again, where they're saying that it's something that is dormant inside of Jean Grey, even though, as we talked
Stupid.
about in X3, that's just not the case at all.
It's an alien.
It's a cosmic entity, right?
Yeah. Well, and that was another thing too with like going back to Apocalypse's poor choice of his horsemen. It's like because at the end he does that stupid line of "all is revealed," like when he sees Jean in the Phoenix horse. He's like, well, if that was like revealed, like if like I just that line just didn't make sense. I know it's supposed to be the dramatic like final line, but it just did not fit at all. Because you would think that he would go for someone like her or Charles, but I just that line always bugged me. Even I remember first watching this, that line always just felt so stupid to me. All is revealed. So I'm like, was this your ultimate plan? Like,
Speaking of stupid lines, too, when they're battling in Charles' head, and he says to Apocalypse, "This is my house now."
yeah,
Oof.
you're gonna need a bigger house.
Well, if you want to keep talking about dumb lines, when they first landed in Cairo and was it Cyclops goes, we can't control their powers, and of course Mystique and her
Oh,
infinite
yeah.
wisdom saying, well then don't. This is war. You don't need to control your powers. Like, first thing about war is, logistics and planning. I mean,
Well, one thing that actually made me chuckle real quick was when Hank gave Cyclops those ruby quartz sunglasses, and then right before Cyclops was about to put them on, he was facing a bunch of children. Then Hank's like, "Oh wait," and he shifts his body to the next area.
well, see, that's actually funny. That's
Well, I was going to say
creepy
also, real quick,
lines.
I think it was so refreshing that there isn't this movie has its faults, but this felt at least like a Team X-Men movie. There's no Wolverine, even though he's in his cameo, but there isn't Wolverine leading the charge. Thank God. I've gotten so sick of him. This felt more refreshing, at least in that regard. Everything else was a mess, but at least it was a breath of fresh air with all the younger characters. The staples of the X-Men.
Well,
And
I
also,
will say,
I was gonna say, everyone on the team felt like they had a part.
Were you going to say, Craig?
well, if we're going to talk about the final fight, that was incredibly disappointing.
Well, yeah.
Well, not just, story-wise and all that stuff, but just the fight itself. There's no fight. You just Apocalypse standing there with the shield up. They couldn't hurt him. And they're just kind of like throwing stuff at each other until they finally kill him, or Jean killed him.
It's funny how the writers decide to sideline Quicksilver.
That's what I don't get. Why bring? I mean, there was no point from being in this movie except for that one scene. He's
just
like,
to
oh,
save just to save everyone from the mansion, even though they rebuilt the mansion at the end.
well, that
But they
too.
couldn't
But
rebuild Alex.
so they introduce him saying he wants to go find his father. Shows up just in time for that action scene.
I was going to
And
mention that, yeah.
he gets there. He's going to tell Magneto. That's the whole. That would have made more sense instead of Magneto just saying, "Well, I guess they're kind of my family." Literally, his family is Quicksilver, and he still has children. He still has his friends. No reason to destroy the world. But they completely ruined that scene.
It was very much like Rise of Skywalker, the critically acclaimed movie, where Finn has to tell Rey something throughout the whole movie, and he never does. It felt like that. Except
See,
obviously this came before that.
you have brain rot because your first thing is going to Star Wars.
No, I just remember thinking how dumb that was. Or you build up something because, as you said,
Yeah.
that's his only reason to go into the X Mansion was for Magneto. He honestly didn't really care to save anybody. He was looking for Magneto, so that would have made sense for him to
Yeah.
finally speak to him at the very end. And then he cowards out like, Simon Kinberg, my guy, what are you doing?
Makes no sense. I don't know what kind of justification they would have. Like, oh, we'll tease in the next movie. Well, I can tell you they don't.
Yeah.
Which is even funnier considering that Simon Kinberg wrote and directed the next one.
I just don't understand it.
And then Magneto, like at the end, like flip sides. That felt so stupid and forced. Oh, you betrayed me. No, I betrayed them.
Well, it
Like
seems like they're kind of going back to Matthew Vaughn's idea of Magneto to make him like a cool heroic guy.
like
Even
Han
though
Solo.
everything, who mentioned Star Wars this time, a loser, but everything we've known about Magneto up until this point is that he's a homicidal maniac. He will kill people with very little regard, and
I
that's
think
all
he
he
likes
wants.
doing it.
Yes, and that's all that is on his mind essentially is just mass human genocide. That's all he cares about. Now you're trying to make him like some sympathetic cool guy. Like, come on, what do you? That's missing the point.
What are we doing here?
He's like a direct contrast of Charles. That's the whole point.
Is it though? I don't think these people.
Well, Matthew Vaughn clearly doesn't think so.
It's just really weird.
He thinks he's cool. He's hip.
But I think
Wow.
also, I think that fight scene that, again, like this is the problem of having
Speaking about
like the fight
Alex,
scene should have been more focused. Yeah. But with the fight scene, like it should have been more focused on Apocalypse against the team, showing off his powers, instead of him and Charles having a punching match in the mind. Like literally, like you couldn't even have a cool mind battle. It's just them in the X Mansion punching each other, and then he's just throwing Charles around.
See, one thing I never understood in these movies, and even the Avengers do this, is that if you have your big baddie, I would love to see the whole team go up against one guy, and that one guy can still hold his own. I don't know
Like
why.
Infinity War.
Well, Infinity War did it, but Endgame didn't do that. They had a stupid generic army versus army. But in this one, they could have done that. All the X Men banding together with Magneto against Apocalypse, and he could hold his own. I think that would have been great. Instead, he's in a force field battling Charles in his mind. Then Charles loses his hair. I think that's part of the reason. Like this movie serves as a reason why Charles goes bald.
Again, I don't understand why you have to give it a reason. Oh, why'd you lose your hair? Oh, the first mutant tried to take my body and my powers, so I lost my hair. As opposed to just, men lose their hair.
Or he was so isn't it from the comics, right? He's so powerful when he got his powers that he just lost all of his
Yeah,
hair.
it said by the time he graduated high school, he had already like lost his hair.
Which does happen to people too. I just don't think you have to. I feel like some of these people have
Just
to try to
yeah.
give like such a huge reason for everything. Like, oh, remember, I don't know, like everything has to have a like, what was it? Indiana Jones, the third one where that's where he gets his whip, his hat, the
Oh yeah, in the
scar.
very beginning.
They have to explain everything.
You know, it
Yeah.
just can't be part of them.
Honestly, the way that they were treating the continuity, it would have been funny, but I would have given them some credit if they just showed Charles and he was just bald, no explanation in this movie, just bald.
Like the next scene, he's just bald, and they're like, "What happened to you?" And he just
It's
ignores him. He doesn't even say
inconsistent
anything.
between scenes and takes.
Yeah, like some he has half his hair,
Yeah, the other one he has like a mohawk.
a mullet. I will say I did like that Storm actually had an accent and stuck with it throughout the entire
Well,
movie.
yeah, at least this actress was a lot better at doing that accent than whatever that was that Halle Berry was doing. That was atrocious.
Hey, she has an award too. But
She has 2 awards, an Academy Award and a Razzie.
I think the Razzie's more accurate.
Yeah, really. But at least like some of the other characters kind of felt like natural in there. Like the only really Wolverine and Stryker felt so out of place. Why they have to go back to Alkali Lake? Like, oh my
Well, that whole
god!
sequence, that made no sense.
Especially
See
when like
Alkali Lake in X2, X3, X Men Origins, in this stupid movie.
That's the thing.
And
That
it's referenced in X1.
it's not
Yeah.
like there's been like the thing is like they set up these Wolverine scenes like you haven't seen this character in 25 years. Like we just saw him, 4 years ago or like 3 years ago, like in the movie before. Like you don't have to keep like they're trying to set it up like, oh look, it's so tiresome.
We already know.
Well, the thing is also the cameo with Wolverine doesn't feel earned because he's been the star of all the X-Men movies up until this point. So at that point, it's just like, oh, it's the guy who's been in every X-Men movie, shoehorned in, if you could say for some of them. It doesn't have the same impact, I guess, as if it was another character they want to do a cameo for. Like Wolverine has literally been the star of every X-Men movie. There's
Yeah.
no point in him being in this one.
Especially when his best movie was the one right before this.
Yeah.
Well, also, what they're referencing too is something we've already seen. I mean, we know he got captured by
We've
Stryker.
seen
We
it
know he gets
3
experimented on.
times.
It pays nothing to this story. There's no
X2
benefit
did
to
it
it.
fine. They explained his origins. You didn't need X-Men Origins to explain anything because they did such a terrible job. And then they do it again in this one.
I wonder if this is their way of trying to do this breakout scene better in the X-Men Origins. I don't know, because I'm trying to think, why would you even want to have this scene?
They did it fine in X2. They showed glimpses. I thought that was fine.
No, but what I'm saying is I don't understand
Oh, I know what you're saying.
even
Yeah.
having it.
I mean, they wanted that comic book accurate costume he had because I think that's what he was wearing in the comics when he got the experiment done on him.
Yeah, I've seen those, pictures, but I just don't understand the reason to have it.
There is none.
Like I said, it feels just so forced, and I don't get it. Did you catch that Star Trek reference?
That I'm glad you brought that up. I was gonna say this is the second movie they brought in. Yeah, that was from was it Who Mourns for Apollo or Adonis? That episode, right?
I don't know the name of the episode, but I know it's the one with Apollo and the green hand.
Yeah. I was gonna say it's the second. They brought that back.
It was more
As well-
appropriate in the other one, right? Because wasn't that episode talking about time travel and Star Trek?
Well, this
Well, I
one.
think-
Well, this one does fit. Yeah, because in that Star Trek episode, Apollo had this. He just wanted to be worshipped as a god.
Yeah, like they're saying the
Um,
Greek gods were like kind of like Thor, right? There were these aliens that were worshipped as gods, and he did have powers, and he wanted the humans to worship them again. And I don't know, they're like, yeah, we don't need you anymore. And yeah, that's when the green hand grabs the Enterprise.
Well, I
Yeah.
do know that guy is a Star Trek fan. He was in Star Trek Nemesis, I believe, is like a little small role. So
Kinberg?
I no, not Kinberg. That guy.
Oh, the guy who is on the run.
Yeah, that
Lol.
guy. He
'Cause
is
he's done terrible things.
a Star Trek fan.
That fits.
I think it was Nemesis he was in.
That fits.
He was in the worst one. Maybe it was Insurrection. I don't know.
That fits. Anyway, I was just gonna say, I know we touched upon this briefly, but there's so many storylines that aren't really great that can carry a movie. I mean, you start with Apocalypse in ancient Egypt, then you have Cyclops awakening his powers. You have Professor X meeting Moira. You have uh, Magneto. You got Mystique and Nightcrawler. Just so many moving pieces, and I know they come together, but it doesn't fit nicely into the puzzle. It's like you're trying to make a movie out of this. It's just not working.
Well, Mystique is running around saving mutants from not just cage fights, but just saving them in general. That's
Well,
what
and
she
tries
did
to
for.
act all nonchalant, like, "Oh, you saved this guy's life. Yeah, I don't care what happens to him. Yeah, whatever, bro. I don't care." It's really weird. That's what I say. I think she's just playing herself at this point.
Well, again, I'm going to give her the benefit of the doubt, and I'm just going to say that she was very checked out in this.
Because you would think like Storm would just naturally have made her way, or like would rather have gone to Charles' school where they're all accepted, as opposed to looking up to this rebel. She called her like they should have just made this school more center stage.
I was gonna say too, Charles didn't keep his promise to assemble the X-Men.
Well, not yet.
No, he didn't. Wolverine said, "Find us," and he didn't find them.
Yeah, he didn't find Storm.
Yeah, it's kind of easy to look. Hey, what's your name? Storm. It's easy to
His name is
find.
like Arroyo Monroe.
Aurora.
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 Yeah.
Aurora.
Oh, Maggie.
He didn't keep his promise. That's why this movie's terrible.
Yeah,
I think they should have just ended it at Days of Future Past.
Well, well, I could understand maybe continuing the prequels timeline. There's more to do there, but they should have ended at least with the older characters, which they did not do.
Or you have Apocalypse and you do them correctly.
Nah,
Wow.
that's too much.
Takes a lot of effort.
I just really want to know like, what went so wrong with this.
I think it's overstuffed. That's its biggest issue. There's just too much
Yeah.
going
Yeah,
on.
Well, because people could say, "Oh, they were trying to set up for sequels," and there is truth that, like, the whole Stryker stuff and the Phoenix, but that's only a small part of the movie.
But do you really have to set up Stryker at this point?
I think you also don't have to set up the Phoenix Force when it's already been done before.
Well, I'm not saying you have to. I'm saying they were doing it sequel bait and all that stuff. But what was here wasn't great either. But that's my point. Like, you can blame the sequel bait stuff as why it wasn't great, but I don't think that would. You could cut that; it would still be a bad movie.
Yeah. Like, I think you cut Mag. I know you really wouldn't, but looking back, you cut out Magneto, you cut out Mystique, and I think you just have Charles. You just focus on the younger group with Charles, like Charles raising them up, and now they have to grow up, quicker than they want against this world-ending threat. I think
the X-Men.
yeah, I think Charles with the younger group, and he finds, and then you can have Storm there already at the school. Like Charles has spent time since Days of Futures Past, finding, and recruiting more of the, of all these mutants to help them. Especially because he said the line to, Raven when she came back was, he's like, yeah, I have plans. Like I want to eventually make this a university for humans and mutants.
I think what it just comes down to is that Apocalypse is terrible in this movie.
Well,
A good villain can
everything's terrible.
carry a good amount of a film, but when he's uninteresting, dry, has this terrible accent, looks kind of silly. It's just like the Sentinels were great in the last movie. And then
Speaking of silly, every time Apocalypse is talking, his voice always gets modified by some
everything
machine.
they built will fall.
But it's not what he's saying. It's all of a sudden they turn on some voice thing.
Yeah,
'Cause it
I
wasn't in the
noticed that
trailer.
too.
Voice modulation.
Yeah, and all of a sudden he sounds different. It's like, you talk about not needing machines, man. Why are you using those like audio tuning stuff, voice modulation? I don't know. It was taking me out of the scenes because him saying like everything they built will fall. At least you could take it a little more seriously if he didn't sound so, fake.
It does. I, I don't know if the actor couldn't deliver the voice that they wanted.
They used
because-
it in trailer, so I think this was. I don't know whose decision it was.
Yeah.
Like it definitely wasn't their. I think their intention at first.
Say what you want about because even like Ultron, like when they did Age of Ultron, like even they use the actor, they modified his voice a bit, but it's still a lot of it is the way the actor delivers it. And
Well, I'm not saying you can't do a little bit, but
Yeah.
you can tell it's going from his normal voice or his whatever he's doing till
yeah,
I don't know, like the evil voice. Ooh,
yeah, they
not intimidating enough.
well, and then also too, it's with like he's like trying to set himself up as like the god. It's like wasn't he just strictly Egyptian? Like he was just worshipped there.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
I guess you could. It's hard to take over the world when you have to actually walk everywhere.
Well, not really, because he could teleport.
That's true, but he also lived for what 1,000 years. I mean, you could kind of Genghis Khan take over the world.
Well, I think what's also silly is that it's like almost comical how end of the world the thing gets at the end, where cities are just getting
Well,
destroyed.
well, that was another thing too. Like with him needing Charles, not really, because even if you don't go the nuke route, if he could have, he literally was evaporating cities with just by putting his hand out. Things were like turning to dust. Like he couldn't have just gone to each major city and just done that himself. Like it seemed like he was too powerful and they didn't know how to handle it properly. So they like either you scale him down or you, I don't know. But it
What
was
other
like,
X-Men villains
yeah.
are there that they could have used that weren't Apocalypse?
Well, they're saying for the sequel, Mr. Sinister, which never happened.
Who's Mr. Sinister again?
Uh, I don't know too much about that guy, but
It's a funny name. Mr. Sinister, Mr. Bad Guy.
no, it's his name because his name is he's with the Essex Corporation.
Yeah,
He was
Nathaniel
teased in two
Essex.
movies.
When was he teasing this one?
It was the end credit scene.
I didn't watch the end credit scene.
So like I think Essex Corporation or something.
Yeah, his
Nathaniel
name is
Essex
Nathaniel
is,
Essex. Interesting.
Yeah,
because he,
yes, it is.
especially with he has shape shifting. Like that's it's a more threatening villain, especially one you don't see coming.
Well, again, Apocalypse probably could have worked if they just didn't do what they did in the movie. You
A
know?
lot of poor choices are made. Oh, I'm remembering this now too. I thought it was kind of funny because I didn't, I don't watch this movie too often. So rewatching it now, I remember Beast goes to Mystique. Here's this extra that I made so we could finally go on missions. And the payoff is that it blows up and almost kills everybody in the mansion.
Yeah, what's his name? Alex blows it up.
He perfectly hits the engine to cause it to destroy everything.
He wrecked havoc with a K.
Like, who writes this stuff? I mean, honestly, I think you'd run it through ChatGPT and get something better.
Also, another useless thing was bringing back Moira. Because it
She
doesn't.
didn't bother me that
Well,
much.
it's just the fact that it doesn't pay off in any timeline. It's like he wiped her memory and then he brings it back. She already has a kid and everything, and then it doesn't go anywhere.
Oh yeah, it was a complete waste of time. The whole thing was, I guess he felt bad for wiping her memories. I don't know why, and he gives them back.
Yeah, so she just wasted 10 years of her life.
20.
Like, yeah, 20 years gone by. Like, what's the point?
Oh yeah,
And then it's not like their love story paid off in any way.
also just wasted time in the movie too. You don't need to show her investigating the cult, which, and also, I mean, I guess really well in the movies that she actually awakened Apocalypse, but
Well, especially with the
You also don't need Charles bumbling in front of her like a schoolboy.
yeah, I know this guy's like 50 years old and he can't talk to women.
Let me go check her out. Check out the situation.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks.
Or yeah, or he's like creepily like, "Oh, you have a son? Does he have a husband? Do you have a husband?" I was like, "Oh."
This man is like 50 years old and he can't talk to women.
Even though in X of First Class they showed him as like a womanizer.
Just how embarrassing.
So at least one of the good things came at the very end, and I'm not talking about Mystique telling everyone that they're X-Men or whatever. I liked the costumes at the end, and it's a shame that they're only teased because those costumes never see the light of day at the end. I like Cyclops' costume; was pretty good.
So they finally bring in his classic visor.
It's just that it looks like it was from that '90s TV show, his costume, and then they just get rid of it in the next movie.
Classic.
Should have brought in Gambit.
No, don't bring him in.
You imagine if like at the end you have all these kids and just Channing Tatum at the just in line, no explanation.
Please let me in, please let me in, please let me in.
Yeah, because I'm looking at the costumes and at the end of Apocalypse, and then seeing the monstrosity that is Dark Phoenix, and oh boy,
Well, I think everyone was in their classic costumes. Even Mystique, that was her classic look.
Well, her face, yeah.
No, her outfit. That was her
Yeah,
classic
the
outfit.
white. Yeah, because she had the white
Oh,
coloring
I'm
on
looking
it.
at the Dark Phoenix one. Look at the Dark Phoenix costumes. It's a shame they just never brought it back. Is my point.
Also, I always find it weird when this is nothing to do with the movie. Every time I guess to suit up, they're like, "Oh, these can't be superhero costumes. They're flight suits." I don't think you really need a flight suit, but
I also thought, speaking of the final scene or the final battle, I thought Angel's death was so stupid. The dude who has wings can't fly out in time, but Psylocke can. When they crash the jet on him,
oh,
Yeah.
I loved Apocalypse's reaction. Like, useless.
it's like you picked him. This guy just has metal wings, and like they try to have him like Nightcrawler struggle with him, even though Nightcrawler can just teleport around him. Havoc, not Havoc. Cyclops could blast him out. So could Jean. Could just control him. So he was just useless. And
Well,
like,
again, they had too many characters and they didn't really know what to do with them.
yeah. At least
Well,
like
speaking of too many characters,
at least they put Psylocke against Beast. That kind of is a even match because he's he has no like arsenal.
Just a shame that James Marsden never got the love as Cyclops, but this kid, he did a good job, I guess. But this kid he's in the movie a lot more than James Marsden ever was.
well, that's probably why.
So you're saying, Craig? Speaking of useless characters,
Jubilee, you know who Jubilee is?
Yeah.
She was in the movie.
Yeah, what are her powers again?
I think she. See, I know she was in the X-Men '90s cartoon, which I've never
Yeah, she was
seen.
the one with the yellow jacket.
Yeah, and the huge like hoop earrings and stuff. It's funny
full
because
full '80s attire.
yeah, so her actual legal name in the comics is Jubilation Lee.
Oh, okay.
I thought Jubilee's just happy, kind of a weird power name, but they actually made it her real name. It's just kind of weird.
Okay.
Well, I just think it was weird too because I remember when they promoted the movie, she was in a lot of the promotional stuff. She was in commercials and
Speaking of promotion stuff, do you guys remember they had that poster of Apocalypse choking Mystique, and then it received a lot of
yes.
criticism because they said it was sexist or whatever, even though he's just a bad guy who would choke anybody. And he does choke Mystique in the movie, wasn't?
Well,
Yeah,
also it made sense
this
in
is
the context of the movie too. Obviously, he's a bad guy. He's going to do bad guy things, but in the context of the movie, she was seen as the hero of the mutants for some reason, which obviously we don't agree with. But she was seen as the hero of the mutants, and he was choking her as a way to kill their god in a way, kill their hero.
well, he was also taunting Charles with it. He was dragging out her death to taunt Charles. He was calling out to him.
Oh, that too. That's when people, I don't know, they just look to get offended for whatever
Yeah.
reason.
The same guy that was morphing people into walls, slitting their throats with sand. He he kicked in Quicksilver's knee.
I mean, he's going to commit, world genocide.
Yeah, choking Mystique is the worst thing he did in that movie, even though he destroyed a bunch of cities
He,
worldwide.
he literally took. He literally what was it? Were they in Cairo? He literally wiped it away at the end.
He killed a bunch of people with sand. He cut their heads off. But choking Mystique, worst thing he's ever done.
Well, it reminds me of this comic where after 9/11, there was a comic where I think all the supervillains were reacting to the Twin Towers getting destroyed. And it's just hilarious. Like Doctor Doom and Magneto are crying, saying, like, who could do something like this? Like, you guys have tried to
Oh
wipe
man,
out
that's so
people
tone deaf.
millions of times. I mean,
That's really bad.
Did they also look at the comic book reader directly in the face when they said that?
basically, yeah.
Who can harm innocent people?
I think,
God, that is so bad.
I think
Oh my
I
God,
think it was Doctor Doom specifically crying, but I know all the other villains there, like
Did
Magneto
they have
and the Kingpin.
were they all at ground zero and said what's senseless violence too?
It's that effect, yeah. I see Doctor Doom, Kingpin, Magneto, Doc Ock.
Oh
Yeah,
my
Well,
they
God.
mourn
Black
the
Hawk's not
death
as
of.
bad as those people.
No, but the point is
Well, I know what the
tone deaf
point is.
comic
Yeah.
writers, they mourn the death of innocents. You guys target the innocents all the time. I mean, I don't understand.
Like Magneto and Doctor Doom are actual killers.
Yeah, these guys will commit
World
genocide to conquer.
domination.
Yeah,
God, that makes me
Oh.
sick, Craig, just hearing that.
that's in such bad taste.
And the Raiders too. They probably thought they were like,
They're
high on
probably
the
like,
horse.
yeah, they're high fiving each other, like, yeah, that's a good
Yeah.
one.
People are
Yeah.
gonna love that.
See, Magneto's like Han Solo. He has a heart.
Yeah, we didn't help in any cleaning up or anything, but hey, we made this nice comic where the villains actually are being good.
Care.
That's really lame that those people are so cowardly to do that. That's a shame. Shameful.
They should feel ashamed.
I hope they feel shame for the rest of their life, even thinking of doing that. But
Like,
is there anything else about this movie? X-Men Apocalypse?
I'm trying to think.
No.
It was just a really huge disappointment.
It was a huge disappointment, especially after how great Days of Future Past was. As we said, probably the best X-Men movie out there. And then this thing followed. I remember walking out of the theater like, what was that? Shocking, I think, is the word to use.
Yeah, people always talk about Superman 3 having too many villains. It's not so much villains that's the problem. It's having too many storylines that don't really work
That's
or
how-
connect.
yeah.
Well,
or
that movie
any
was
way
like
tying to the movie.
underdeveloped stuff in it. Like Venom was shoehorned in there. But
Well, what I'm
even
saying is-
even then, though, he had a motivation.
Well, it's the same. Like people always talk about Superman 3 like the worst thing in the world. I'm like, this is so much worse. This is more of an example of how stuffing too much stuff into Amazing Spider-Man 2. Like Spider-Man 3 really shouldn't get the rap of being
Oh,
the worst.
The Amazing Spider-Man 2 is abysmal with too many villains. Oh my god.
Yeah, well, this I consider in that camp of just too much stuff going on. Nothing's developed. Nothing fits. Nothing makes sense.
Even like you said, the action isn't as good as the last movie.
yeah.
Well,
At
the
least
last
if
movie
it
didn't
had-
have great action. It was just a good movie. You don't need the action to kind of keep your mind occupied or keep your mind engaged.
I do expect a higher level of action when you have someone of Apocalypse's power there.
I get that too.
Yeah, like what kind of action are you gonna have with Wolverine? He's just gonna stab a bunch of people in brutal ways and kill them.
Oh my God! You imagine for this movie if if Apocalypse freed Wolverine and to have him as one of his horsemen.
Well, that wouldn't really make sense at all, but
I mean, it doesn't make sense he is Angel or Psylocke, but I'm just saying, just so that they could shove Wolverine in your face. They,
For the millionth
have him-
time.
yeah.
it'd be funny. Cyclops drove his motorcycle to Cairo, and then Wolverine at the end, he just like drives off with the motorcycle.
Or
Something evolved.
instead of just having the kids like after Wolverine, escapes, they're like, oh God, I hope we never see him again.
That guy's like an
Hope we
animal.
Hope he never takes my bike again.
Did you see the way that guy fought? He was
I
like a
hope he
Wolverine.
never takes my bike again and not fill it up.
Hope he doesn't.
Hope he
I hope
doesn't
my,
take
bi-
my girl.
yeah, I was gonna say, I hope my bike's the only thing he takes.
Yeah, I hope he doesn't take my future girl.
Oh, I thought of one thing.
Yes.
So when Magneto's giving this speech and he's about to kill everyone in that wherever he was working, that shop, and then
Yes.
Apocalypse appears and he drops the F-bomb.
Uh-huh.
I remember the man children being very excited, like, wow, finally someone said an F-bomb in these movies. Whoa, they had their one F-bomb, they use it now. I really wish those people would get help. It's very childish. I don't know, maybe
that was
because
your
I'm not
last
15.
point, Craig?
Well, I'm not 15, and people were like so excited, like, yeah, isn't that great?
Yeah,
Okay.
just looking back on it, it was just like unnecessary.
I mean, to be
was
fair, that'd probably be my reaction if I see like these blue people come out of a portal. I'm like,
True,
"Whoa,
but-
what is this?
I'm more talking about the people if they're happy to see their favorite bad word used.
Yeah, that's fair. So let's give a quick summarizing opinion of the movie, and then we'll just wrap it up. Daniel, what did you
Actually,
think? Give me.
I had one more thing.
Oh, go ahead then.
I was just thinking about that comic book, Craig, where all the villains are crying. Imagine if instead of they took Magneto to Auschwitz, they took him to Ground Zero.
Oh man.
He was at Ground Zero.
Well, it was like that tone deaf scene from the Eternals where Fastos played by our favorite podcaster from Godzilla vs. Kong and Godzilla X Kong. He has the power to create, and then the movie said that he gave humanity the atomic bombs, and then he's crying at the site of either Hiroshima or Nagasaki. And I forget what he was crying about. He's like, "What have I done? Why did I give them these
did,
tools?"
did they get
Same
essentially?
thing as Oppenheimer. You can't invent something that's going to kill billions of people then knowingly and then get
And be
upset about
shocked
it.
about it. What do you
I
think is
don't.
going to be used for? Like the plant flowers? Like what did he think he was doing? I don't know. It's kind of like that, along the lines of that tone deaf Doctor Doom crying thing in 9/11.
It's so stupid.
It's not clever, writers. It's not clever. It just makes you look desperate and pathetic. But they don't give me a final sentence about your summarization of the movie. What do you think? Recap.
Could have been better.
Could have been better.
So I would say simplify everything.
Okay. Craig?
I would have cherished you, cared for you. I've loved you as a father loves his children. Did I ask so much?
Was that from this movie?
No, it's from Star Trek.
Oh.
That's from that episode.
Craig,
What'd you think? Give me one final sentence.
it was it's because I don't hate it as much now, but it's also not good, so
Yeah.
I don't know.
Dis-
Below,
disappointing.
definitely below mid.
Not as bad as I remembered. I remember just being bewildered at the theater. I was like, oh my god. But yeah, it's overstuffed. Not well done. Too many ideas. Not good.
There's this quote from that episode too. Brian Singer, we've outgrown you. You asked for something we can no longer give.
Oh god. Well, everyone will be delighted to know that next week will be our last X-Men movie for a while. I think we'll do the Wolverine ones much later. I can't keep watching these things. I'm like all X-Men burned out. So
Which is funny because
yeah, Craig?
these are supposed to be like we just saw the good ones, the First Class, Days of Future Past, but now we're getting to the bad ones.
Well, at least we only
Can't wait till we
have...
see New Mutants.
Oh, I've never seen that. We have one more, and we'll do next week. It's Dark Phoenix. So, with all that being said, this has been the Unbiased Opinion, where everyone's opinion is biased except ours. I'm Colin.
I'm Apollo.
And yeah.
And we will see you next week.